I've recently been catching up on some series that I've missed from many years ago. I'm not sure how Jun Mieda's comedy drama series, Charlotte, flew under the radar for me up until now, but I'm glad I decided to watch it after finding the opening sequence a couple weeks ago. This was a good palate cleanser after watching the abysmal harem action series, Absolute Duo, which I also became interested in after watching its opening online. From its first few minutes, Charlotte grabbed my attention with how it subverted my expectations when it came to its primary protagonist, Yu Otosaka. I can't be the only one who got major Lelouch vibes from the character during the opening. In the beginning of the series, Yu abuses his power to control people for 5 seconds for his own personal gain. He uses his ability to cheat his way into a prestigious high school, but ends up getting caught by Naotomori, a girl from another school who also has a special ability. Yu and his sister Ayumi are forced to transfer to special schools designed to protect children with special abilities from the scientists that would experiment on them. Yu is then forced to work alongside Nao as part of the student council to help locate and stop individuals from using their abilities to protect them and others that they might potentially abuse. I love the idea of the show as a concept alone, and it takes a unique approach to the teenagers with superpowers angle. I wouldn't go into this expecting something like X-Men or My Hero Academia, as the supernatural powers are treated differently. No one at the school, aside from the main cast, ever used their powers. The show starts out strong as Yu is introduced to several characters with special abilities and learns of the potential threat ability users face. Maeda does a lot of foreshadowing throughout the first half and includes many moments that might not seem significant at first, but eventually make sense when certain things are revealed later on. The foreshadowing is done through characters' dialogue and actions, and in one instance it was very clever in my opinion. Maeda also establishes a mystery surrounding a dream that Ayumi has in the beginning. The series pacing is smooth for the most part, although episodes 4 and 5 don't really move the story along much. These episodes serve mostly to give the audience more insight into characters like Nao's brother Kazaki and Yusa's sister Misa as the student council members interact with one another. Episode 5 also sets up the band Zien that Nao and Kazaki love. The band and their music are an important element that progresses the story and impacts certain characters later on. The story picks back up on episode 6, which has a very suspenseful ending. The remainder of the series is excellent, and in terms of pacing, they probably could have cut Yusa's music video scene in episode 8, which was around 1 minute and 40 seconds. There are some great reveals in episodes 9 and 10, and the finale is outstanding. I was surprised by how well the finale was executed given the scope of what Maeda set up for it. Yu had to tackle a huge task, and I was wondering how Maeda was going to fit everything within one episode. The action scenes in the finale were great, but seeing Yu slowly struggle to accomplish his goal and the mental and physical toll that it took on him is what really sold the episode. The conclusion was satisfying, and I couldn't find any plot holes even after watching the series twice. There is so much to appreciate about the story and the characters, especially after witnessing certain reveals later in the show. Charlotte's characters were entertaining to watch, and I really like how Yu and Nao were written. Yu acts as the audience window character and constantly points out how half-baked character abilities are. I like that the abilities usually had a drawback upon usage or a flaw in how it functions. For example, Nao has the power to conceal herself from one person's field of vision, allowing her to appear invisible to a target, but not everyone else around her. Another member of the student council, Jojiro Takajo, has the ability to move extremely fast in one direction, but cannot control where he stops. In Jojiro's case, this leads to some funny physical comedy where he gets injured doing different things. There were a lot of funny moments with this character, especially the moments where he's fanboying over the rock idol and other member of the student council, Yusa Kurabane. I totally understand that some people might get annoyed by Jojiro's behavior with his obsession over Yusa, but it never got to the point where I started to hate the character. There were also some moments with Nao and Misa that I honestly thought were much funnier than the physical comedy with Jojiro. The moments where Nao gets annoyed by Jojiro or their classmates are hilarious to me. Anyway, Yu's character development from a cowardly, self-serving, dishonest jerk to someone with more empathy and willingness to sacrifice for others is steady and handled incredibly well. When I saw the character in the opening for the first time, I initially thought he was going to be like Light Yagami from Death Note or Lelouch from Code Geass. Yu is nowhere near as smart as those characters, nor is he as cunning or manipulative. The only thing he really had going for him was his good looks. He really was a scumbag in the beginning of the show, and I like that there were points in the story where it's clear he could have gone down the wrong path if it wasn't for Now stepping in. I like how Now and Yu changed each other by the end of the series. My favorite moments from the show are those where Yu is at his breaking point. I love how Maeda depicts his depression at a certain point in the story. It gets dark at one point to an extent where I thought he might become a villain or an anti-hero. If Yu did go down that route, it totally would have fit because of how his character is written. Yu's voice actor, Ray Chase, does a phenomenal job conveying the range of emotions that the character feels throughout the story. Chase gives Yu a really good evil laugh that's memorable, and I love his performance the most when the character was unhinged. The voice acting as a whole is great, but Ray Chase and Now's voice actor, Lauren Londa, were standouts to me. Generally speaking, the characters were well written in terms of their dialogue and motivations. With the exception of Jojiro, who is essentially a comedy relief character, the main cast is fleshed out. Now is the head of the student council and is smart, short-tempered, and has a strong sense of morality. In the beginning, she has trust issues due to something that happened to her in the past. She is hated by the majority of her peers due to how she deals with people that do the wrong thing. I like that despite her circumstances, Now isn't immediately cold toward everyone or cynical, although she is typically blunt and doesn't think much of Yu at first. Yusa and Misa are polar opposites of each other. Misa is tomboyish, short-tempered, and rude, while Yusa is more girly, she's cute, easygoing, and kind. Yusa always tries to help others, and people naturally flock to her due to her personality and her status as an idol. On the other hand, Misa is usually profane and confrontational. I like the contrast between these two characters and their interactions with the rest of the student council. These two characters add to the humor as well as the emotional weight of the series. In addition to the main cast, there are a few good supporting characters, one of which being the lead singer for the end, Sala Shane. Without getting into spoilers, this character provides Yu with wisdom and comfort in a sense because she can relate to how he feels at a certain point in the story. Sala is laid back yet very demanding, but also tolerant and reserved. She's only in the story briefly, but she leaves an impact on Yu and another character. The themes of Charlotte's story could be a couple of things. The main idea I believe Maeda was trying to convey throughout the series is that you don't have to be special to accomplish your goals. While I don't necessarily think this is the case, one could argue that part of Yu's story is about how power can corrupt people given the way he started and his behavior during certain points in the story. To be more specific, power corrupts when used maliciously. Writing and characters aside, Charlotte's presentation is top-notch in terms of its soundtrack and visuals. Studio PA Works produced this series and did an excellent job with the animation and camera work. There were a couple of instances where they start a scene from a first-person perspective while moving the camera in what looks to be a CG environment. This is done initially when Yu enters the student council room for the first time. The CG in those scenes and the backgrounds in general look good. There are a few instances where they switch perspective to either first or third person, such as when Jojiro is first shown using his ability, or when the student council were chasing down someone for information. In addition to the camera work, there are also scenes where they essentially gray out everything except for certain characters and objects. This visual effect is used in the very first scene of the series, and also a few times when Jojiro uses his ability to convey the sense of time moving slowly around him. All of these things keep the show engaging and appealing to watch from a visual perspective. The soundtrack is outstanding and it features insert songs from Japanese artists Morena Nakamura and Maya Uchida. These artists performed the songs for Charlotte's fictional bands Z End and How Low Hello. I can't stress enough how good these songs are. Songs like Sinking Ships, Trigger, and Falling really complement the scenes that they're used in. The opening sequence for the series looks amazing, and the first ending sequence song is beautiful. Overall, Charlotte is a great comedy drama series with memorable, entertaining characters and an interesting story. The writing is excellent, the pacing is consistent for the most part, and it's an audio and visual treat. If you've seen Charlotte, let me know what you guys thought about it in the comment section below. And as always, if there's an anime or a manga that you would like for me to do a review or a first impressions on, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/fearnohate or donating via the PayPal link in the description. Whether you guys decide to donate or not, thank you guys for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.